Asteroid Signal was the arrival of Van Connor, of course. Mr. Movies when it comes to All Matters movie related. But certainly his Freeview recommendations for the weekend are what we're listening out for. This music that was originally used for the Pearl and Dean adverts at the cinema. And you're way too young to remember this one, Van. But what they used to do was they would have an advert they shot generically, and they put up just a single caption for your local business. And the one for the dry cleaning firm in Leytonstone Highway, where I grew up in East London, the slogan was, if your clothes aren't becoming to you, they should be coming to us. And even at the age of 9 or something, that's the worst slogan of all time, isn't it? The other thing they had was they had old-fashioned gentleman outfitters, and they were selling, nobody wore them, it was trilby hats, but it said, if you want to get ahead, get a hat. I know, different era. So, how's your week been, Ben?
I've been all good, thanks, Mr. Ross. Got to see a new John Cena comedy. You know, that's always a hoot. I think it's on Prime now. Ricky Stenicki, it was called. But other than that, it's been a fairly quiet week in the run-up to the Oscars.
Because I managed to see June twice over last weekend. I had bought tickets for Friday, and then Sunday afternoon, a friend of mine was going with nobody to go with, and I thought rather than waste a ticket, I would have saw it again. I'm glad I did. All kinds of little bits.
Did you love?
Well, the ending irritated me because it's different to the book, but they may set that right in the forthcoming sequel. And Elia is born in the book as she was in the David Lynch film. Apart from that, it was bang on. I mean, the scale of it and the soundtrack I thought was astonishing.
Oh yeah, did you see the David Lean sort of Lawrence of Arabia comparison?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very justified.
I was half expecting your mate, Sharif, to come riding off of the Arrakis dunes, but sadly it was not to be. However, let's start with your first recommendation, and it's a bit of an underrated Bond film, I think, this one. It's GoldenEye, isn't it, you've gone for?
Yeah, I think it's a fan favourite now, GoldenEye, and was a pretty successful reboot and reinvention of the Bond series. So following the two-film venture of Timothy Dalton with Living Daylights and License to Kill previous, the decision was made to effectively retool Bond into something closer to a sort of Tom Clancy-like thriller in 1995, with Pierce Brosnan getting a second shot, having had to drop out the role previous, like a decade previous for Remington Steele on TV. Getting a second shot at being the eponymous James Bond, this time in the first Bond movie to have been made post-Cold War. So taking Bond into the former Soviet Union and pitting him against Sean Bean as the former 006, a former 00 agent and Bond's best mate who's been left for dead and has now years later reappeared and gone bad. So effectively kind of the plot of The Winter Soldier in a sense, but you get the joy as well of Robbie Coltrane as Zukovsky and my personal favourite, Famke Janssen as Xenia Onatopp, the Bond girl who crushes you to death between her thighs. What a way to go.
And of course, and GoldenEye, I think, was the name of Ian Fleming's villa on Jamaica, which he bought out of the proceeds of the James Bond novels.
Absolutely, and it shares its name here as well with the title track, performed by Tina Turner and written by Bono and The Edge, and I think it's one of the Bond all-timers.
GoldenEye! She sings.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
So where can we see this one then, Ben?
So this is on tonight, 8 o'clock on ITV4. I've got a clip for you, because this is the first movie to introduce Judi Dench as the new M.
Yes, of course.
So I've got a clip for you. She was based on Stella Remington, having recently taken over as the real-life head of MI6 at that point. So there's a reference to getting an older female M for this one. This is a clip I've got for you, is the first meeting between the new M and 007.
You don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods. You think I'm an accountant. A bean counter, more interested in my numbers than your instincts.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War. Whose boyish charms, though wasted on me, obviously appeal to that young woman I sent out to evaluate you.
Point taken.
Not quite, 007. If you think for one moment I don't have the balls to send a man out to die, your instincts are dead wrong. I've no compunction about sending you to your death. But I won't do it on a whim. Even with your cavalier attitude towards life.
Shakespeare and training kicking in there with a whim, and if I were to be pedantic, I would say to Dame Judi Dench, that saying somebody's sexist and misogynistic is a tad tautologist, because it's very difficult to be sexist without being misogynistic, and vice versa. What say you, O Master of the English Language?
Oh, to be fair, I love the script for this movie. I love it too much to pick it apart. I'm obsessed with GoldenEye. It is, it's my personal favourite of all the Bond movies.
And we go for my first recommendation, and I must admit I struggled a bit this weekend for the first time for ages, but I've gone for a film that just really creeps into the weest, smallest hours of Saturday morning. It's on at 12:55, 5 to 1 in the old money, Saturday morning. It's my Friday recommendation. It is on Film 4, and from 1976, it's the original and best version of the film Carrie, which I must confess, I've never been a huge fan of the Stephen King films. I mean, The Shining is probably Shining and Eyes Wide Shut, probably my least favourite Stanley Kubrick films. Shining's fine, but it's like, you know, almost anyone could have directed it. Maybe wouldn't have had some of the twists in it. And a lot of the Stephen King adaptations, Pet Sematary, I thought both versions of that were pretty poor. I loved Blowout, which was directed by Brian De Palma, and I absolutely loved this film, Carrie, again directed by Brian De Palma, and it's got Nancy Allen in it, who was then married to the director Brian De Palma. I mean, basically he was somebody who made Hitchcock films and then the Mission Impossible film. And this is the kind of film I think Hitchcock would have made had he made an out-and-out horror film, because it's got the mother played by Piper Laurie. Carrie's mother's a religious fanatic. You've got the high school bullies who seem basically all psychopaths to a man, except one woman, Nancy Allen, and it's got one of the great jump scare endings of all time. I saw this in the Odeon Hearn Bay in the days when papers didn't give away things like that. I nearly lost my 4 pints of Thicksters Old Peculiar, and as a student, I would have hated to have wasted any beer. So, it's a cracking old film, this one. I mean, some of the special effects probably look a bit hokey now, because Carrie has telekinesis, so she can move objects with the power of her mind, which is not known, of course, to these high school students who make her life an absolute misery, including humiliating her beyond belief, for the prom, when of course she comes in the great image from the posters drenched in, I think it's pig's or cow's blood or something. And you can see this little mini masterpiece of the horror genre, Carrie, film 4, 12:55am, Saturday morning. Enjoy. Here's a chunk of the very 1970s trailer. Listen to the movie voice man from the 70s.
It's the night of the senior prom. The Bates High School gym is alive with excitement. Everybody is there, even Carrie White. The girl no one likes.
We're all sorry about this incident, Cassie.
It's Carrie!
And everyone makes fun of her.
Free, Carrie!
The girl who lives in that creepy house with her crazy mother.
Help the sinning woman see the sin of her days and ways. Show her that if she had remained sinless, the curse of blood would never have come on her.
The girl with the strange power.
If I concentrate hard enough, I can move things.
Oh dear, that doesn't bode well, and it doesn't end well for many of the high school students, including one of them, I think, played by a very young indeed Brian De Palma, John Travolta, who of course then ended up in Blowout, which is, I think, up there with Obsession as my favourite De Palma film. How do you rate Carrie in De Palma as well? You're a De Palma fan, first of all. You must have at least a sneaky regard for the man.
I'm a very big De Palma fan. I'll even go to bat for the sort of forgotten 1998 Nicolas Cage movie Snake Eyes.
Oh yes,
which I unappreciated.
I mean,
De Palma banger.
Talk about steady cam work with a vengeance. That's practically one take. It feels like when you see it. It gave me a headache the first time I saw it.
Yeah, that one has the really long, unbroken sort of intro take as they go into the boxing arena. But no, I really like Carrie, and I do think it holds up. The effects actually are quite timeless, because there's not really anything great big in the way of stunts. It's largely done through camera work. So it's something that I do think ages it rather nicely.
I remember knives flying through the air and pinning a female character's hand to the wall in a kind of mock-up crucifixion, which was particularly gory. I thought, now we go for your second recommendation. Tomorrow's recommendation is the launch of a massive franchise, again in the horror genre, Final Destination.
Yes, the very first Final Destination, which is going to be 25 years old next year. So they have recently started filming the 6th installment of the franchise, Bloodlines. They started this week, filming began, and it was announced that for the 25th next year, they're actually going to be reissuing the films in IMAX. So you're going to be able to see the new Final Destination et al. In IMAX from next year.
I'd love to see the old. We show the 3D one, whichever one that was in the IMAX, because that was a cracking, one of the best 3D films of the modern era. I think that one was.
They've all got their unique qualities in their own way. The third one, for instance, is the fan favourite with the roller coaster, and there's an interactive edition that you can get on DVD. We actually ran a screening of it this past year. But the very first one, say, starts the template for us. A group of teenagers narrowly cheat death, narrowly avoid dying in a horrific accident, only because of having cheated it. Death sets about offing them seemingly random accidents, one by one, in the order in which they would have died in the original accident. It's up to the teens themselves to decipher the code and cheat death all over again. You can see this Saturday night, 11:35 on 5 Star. If you've never seen it, it's absolutely terrific. It began live as an X-Files episode, as a script for an episode of the X-Files, was then sold as a movie concept once they retooled it to be from the victim's perspective and basically removed the Mulder and Scully character. There's still two cops in the movie, but they're not really as as prominently featured as, for instance, Mulder and Scully would be. And the movie would form the first feature effort from X-Files fan favourite writers, Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who basically took on writing and directing this. They left the X-Files to do this. So it has its roots in the X-Files and becomes this awesome post-Scream teen horror franchise, all of its own back. So like I say, Saturday nights, 11:35 on 5 Star. I've got a clip for you, and this is Tony Todd's, Mortician laying out the code for cheating death.
Here we go.
Every single move we make, from the mundane to the monumental, the red light that we stop at or run, the people we have sex with or won't with us, the airplanes that we ride or walk out of. It's all part of death's sadistic design, leading to the grave.
Design? Does that mean if you figure out the design, you can cheat death?
Alex, you've already done that by walking off the plane. Your friend's departure shows that death has a new design for all of you. Now you have to figure out how and when it's coming back at you.
And no one wants to owe a debt to death, do they? That is a great speech. I forgot that. So a very literate horror film as well for the sound of it. Now, I have to have a slight apology for this next recommendation because it is the worst film made by my favourite director, Sam Peckinpah, real name David Samuel Peckinpah. It followed 3 of his best films, all of which for me were bona fide masterpieces. He made Cross of Iron, the World War II film, James Mason, Maximilian Schell. He made the brilliant Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, Warren Oates, of course, in the game. Chris Christopherson's in that. And he also had made, shortly after that, I think, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which, whatever version you see, is one of the great westerns for me of all time. Also, he stirred into the mix a terrible sort of CIA hitman film, Killer Elite. But all of those, though, done badly at the box office. With an irony that only the god of cinema will appreciate, who's a twisted individual, Convoy, Peckinpah's worst film, was his most profitable in his history, and it was the one that apparently led to people like the studio, they considered offering the Superman film to Peckinpah to direct. I mean, I can imagine nothing more bizarre than he'd taken it, I suppose he needed the money. He was in the worst possible state mentally and physically, apparently, when he made it. Chris Christopherson has been interviewed about it and says, but I interviewed Chris Christopherson about another, when he was in the Blade film, and I really don't know what to talk about his Peckinpah films, and he gave, so he actually charmingly, he said, look, where are they holding you guys? And I said, we're in the journalist room now. He said, well, look, we're getting lunch in 20 minutes. And he did. He came in and gave me another 10 minutes just to read the chat as Johnny Fanboy about them. But this was the least popular of his experiences with Peckinpah. It's basically also, here's what's wrong with it, folks. Imagine going to see a film by your favourite director, a moral master, asks difficult questions, master of screen violence, and he's based it on Joe Dolce's Shut Up Your Face, a novelty song. This is the American version. It's based on a C.W. McCall hit song called Convoy, about the CB radio craze, which was used when there was a speed limit in the States because of the oil crisis, the OPEC crisis, and the song was irritating beyond measure as well. Of course, it pops up in the film, so they're trying to get across the state in their gigantic trucks, very macho, and they're trying to beat the local sort of corrupt lawman, played by Ernest Borgnine, who's in The Wild Bunch, of course. Peckinpah's other great masterpiece, and Ali McGraw's in it. It was in The Get Away with Steve McQueen. So it's a kind of Peckinpah cast of regulars. It's a jollier film than any of his films apart from The Ballad of Cable Hogue. And you think, or you led to believe one major character has died, and in the end there's a twist. No, he hasn't. So it's a kind of family film for a slightly sick and twisted family. It's on 10 to 7, Saturday, tomorrow evening, and it's on the Legend channel, not Legend Movies, Legend, which is normally showing TV shows, 10 to 7 tomorrow. I've got a burst of the trailer. I can sort of half apologise in advance. There is a not bad slow motion bar fight which I remember seeing. I mean, I've seen this film half a dozen times, but it was a skinny old weekend for me, Van, so I can only apologise. However, you did you've got a cracker on the way, in fact 3 crackers on the way, but my final recommendation is a Sunday film. I think we mentioned it before. It's directed by Richard Attenborough, cast of gazillions. It stars Ben Kingsley, Sir Ben Kingsley now, of course. He got his Oscar for playing Mahatma Gandhi, the great Indian leader whose campaign for civil rights started in South Africa when he was a lawyer. He took on the might of the British Empire and in the end kind of dictated the way that the handing back of India was carried out, but he failed to stop partition, which was his huge regret. So there's been conflict ever since then. However, it's a very moving film. It's beautifully shot at times in an old-fashioned, stately kind of way, folks. It's a long film as well. It's about 11 days. No, it's not 11 days long. It's about 3.5 hours long. And you can catch this on Great Movies, Sunday afternoon, Sunday tea time, 10 minutes past 5. And again, I say, if the word dignified, if there was a genre of dignified films, like film noir, westerns and dignified, this would be a dignified movie, I think, man.
I think so, absolutely. I say, directed with absolute perfection by Attenborough, and a cast that includes, I think Candice Bergen is a supporting player in this, isn't it? Because I always forget that one. But it's a great movie for a Sunday afternoon, definitely. And
we've got Martin Sheen in it as well, as the American reporter who helps boost him to fame. So it's one of those films where I'm trying to think about the one word to sum it up. Not just dignified, it's proper. Everything works in this film, as it should do, which means it was a monumental achievement by Richard Attenborough, because it's got a cast literally of tens of thousands. As I said, it's on Great Movies, Sunday afternoon, 10 past 5. Here we go.
Gandhi. 100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
The story of one man whose voice spoke out for millions.
To gain independence, we must prove worthy of it.
From his humble beginnings.
You're an ambitious man, Mr. Gandhi. I hope not.
To his ultimate triumph. He was the conscience of all mankind.
Where there's injustice, I've always believed in fighting. I will fast as a penance for my part in arousing such emotions, and I will not stop until they stop.
His torment ended a nation's suffering.
I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love has always won.
Words you can all possibly take some comfort from at the moment. Hope it turns out to be true. And what's your final recommendation for us, Van?
Well, as you say, not one but 3, technically. Film 4 are spending their Sunday afternoon showing the original Men in Black trilogy, all in one big marathon. There is obviously a 4th movie, Men in Black International, which just features, instead of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, features Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. Not quite as good. And, I mean, about on par with the second Men in Black, if we're honest. But the first and third Men in Blacks are bangers. I mean, the first one's an all-time classic. Largely working because of the brilliant comedic timing of Tommy Lee Jones and the unlikely chemistry that he has with Will Smith. Tommy Lee Jones is someone in this movie, in this series, I would say could only have been played otherwise maybe by Gene Hackman. There is a wryness and a sort of an irascible just irritability that you have to love. His comic timing in this is absolute genius, as you'll find out in the clip in a moment. This is the story of the Men in Black, effectively space cops, our secret government organization that protects, the people of planet Earth from extraterrestrial threats, which it turns out, yes, are an everyday occurrence. They dress in black and they wipe your memory when they're done. And Will Smith, as the new recruit who in the first movie is our POV character as he is inducted into this world and takes on a variety of wacky monsters and bad guys. So you can see the first one starting at 3:25 on Saturday afternoon on Film 4. Men in Black 2 and 3 do follow straight on the back of that. I've got a clip for you, and this is our central pair of agents, J and K, so Smith and Jones respectively, which is a great thing for a movie poster. Smith and Jones. They literally advertised them as Smith and Jones, which I thought was very cool. This is them arriving to interview a witness to an alien attack.
Here we go.
Wait a minute, slow down. Why? Give her time to get the wrong impression. Makes things go a lot smoother.
Can I help you, gentlemen?
Yes, ma'am. I'm Special Agent Mannheim. This is Special Agent Black of the FBI. We'd like to talk to you about your visitor.
You here to make fun of me, too?
No, ma'am. We at the FBI do not have a sense of humor we're aware of. May we come in?
Sure.
Thank you.
Lemonade?
Oh, yes, please.
I love the scene when Will Smith seems to completely misread the threat levels of different things in the shooting gallery.
Oh, yeah.
He's absolutely right. So 3 great films there, and we've got a great podcast to look forward to later on this morning, I hope. Are you running off screen this week, Van?
We are. It is the 400th off-screen this week. 400 episodes. We started with Jurassic World in 2015. We're up to 400 already. And how do we celebrate 400? We review a Zac Efron, John Cena R-rated comedy for Amazon Prime. That's the state of cinema in 2024 for you. But so that's on podcast platforms from 8 a.m. with Adam Ball and myself. So go and check out Off-Screen.
And I'm pretty sure we're going to be hearing much more from Van on Monday morning, when the Oscars are running consecutively with the show, or concurrently rather, with the show being on. So Van will return, as will I, after this on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. But for the moment, that's a wrap.